to talk about steady state cardio versus high intensity interval training. I get asked about it a lot, and I usually get asked which one's better. The answer to that is that it depends on what you're training for. In the first instance, if someone was asking me about general fitness, I would say it doesn't really matter. You could do both, you could do either. It depends on which one you prefer. Personally, if I don't have a fitness goal to work towards, I will usually lift, and then after that, steady state cardio. If I have some fitness goal to go for, so if I need to improve my fitness for something like an event, a run, then my fitness would definitely be interval based with an aim to improve my fitness levels. And I know a lot of people prefer that mode of fitness because it's a short blast, you can get it over and done with, and it makes you feel like you've done something. But is it necessarily the best one every single time? Let's look at heart rate zones. Why would we do steady state or low intensity cardio versus high intensity interval training? If you're looking at a fat burn, you're actually going to get more efficient fat burn at the time of doing the exercise when you're doing your steady state. If we look at how you burn fat, that is by having oxygen present, okay? So fat gets oxidized and broken down to use as a fuel. That oxygen threshold, go above that between 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate if we're trying to keep things simple. Once you go above that oxygen threshold where you're starting to exercise without oxygen, you then switch from burning fat as an energy source into using these more immediate energy sources like glycogen. So depending on what you're looking for is how you would select that training mode. So there's a point around that oxygen threshold, and we call this our respiratory efficiency ratio, or RER. Let's leave protein out for the time being, and we're just going to focus on fat and carbohydrate or glycogen. Below the threshold, you're burning fat. Your body is using oxygen to oxidize fat and break it down for energy. Your body switches which fuel it's going to target for its energy. When you go above this threshold, you're no longer burning fat and you're using your glycogen and actually lactate when you drop back below that threshold. So your heart rate zones become important here if you are concerned about which modality of training that you want to use. The 220 minus your age is your theoretical maximum heart rate. But if you work at your actual peak heart rate, you would base your heart rate zones on that peak heart rate. You can then figure out where your lactate threshold is. If you're into your HIIT training, this is where you're going to be. So you're using your immediate energy stores. You're going away from oxidizing fat, burning fat as a fuel. That's not to say that you won't get a good calorie burn from your high intensity interval training. That can range from your kind of shorter bursts like your Tabata circuit to something that's maybe a little bit longer like your fours. If you're doing fours, which is my preferred interval training method or protocol, that means you're spending 4 minutes in your red zone or above that lactate threshold. Then you're dropping down for 3 minutes below your lactate threshold back into the oxygen zone. So for 4 minutes you go above, and then for 3 minutes you come below. Going back into your oxygen zone is where the magic happens. That's where the fitness comes in, how quickly your heart rate can drop so that it starts repaying its oxygen debt that it's built up. That's the marker of your fitness. Previously, I've worked with professional athletes in rugby and professional athletes in football. Most of the time, they are using the interval training based protocol, similar to the fours or your Tabatas. What they're trying to do is bring around a training response that is going to improve their fitness or their VO2. That is your interval training. A lot of people these days will go into the gym and they want to do HIIT training because it's a bit of a buzzword now, but do you necessarily need to be doing that? So let's look at the pros of doing low intensity or steady state cardio. For one, you're less likely to be putting as big a strain on your system, and that means cardiovascularly, intensity wise on your joints. If you don't have a particular training target to go for, then it might be a good idea to start looking at your steady state or lower intensity cardio. You compare that up with your resistance training. If you do want a copy of my fours protocol, which is my 4 minutes high intensity and 3 minutes low intensity, just drop me a message or send me an email and I will send you out a free copy of that training protocol. If you've got any questions, get in touch with me at any time.